What's going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you're feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. Let's get right into the story. Loss is something as people we will all experience at some point in our lives. Whether it's losing a job you really liked or a relationship you thought would last forever. It teaches you nothing is guaranteed or promised, and how to move on. Grieve hard, but not long, as life continues. But some losses just hit a little harder, like losing a family member or loved one. Most of the time, if it's something expected, like sickness or old age, it hurts, but it's more understandable than losing someone to something like violence in the streets. That pain hits different, and it could definitely turn into anger. When you sit and think, someone really played God and took my people's life. You think about the memories, conversations y'all had, and that's a hard pill to swallow. Knowing the individual that did it could still be walking the streets. Even if they do go to jail, the damage is already done. In a lot of cities across the U.S., violent crimes have been on the rise. People losing their life at a rapid pace. And sometimes DAs, prosecutors, judges, and police seem like they are overwhelmed, leaving charges dismissed, loved ones not receiving justice, people being wrongly accused, leaving some to want to take the law into their own hands to get revenge or some kind of get back for their loved one. And when someone is accused of making your family cry and inflicting pain, most people, if given a chance, will want the individual responsible and their family to feel the same thing. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to St. Louis, Missouri to discuss the case of a man who took the law into his own hands after the person accused of taking his sister's life walked free. Back in 2020, 18-year-old Retaliation was living a happy life. The senior at Parkway High School was looking forward to graduation and doing big things. The young lady had a big smile and a big personality. She was known for keeping everyone around her in good spirits, from joking as she often was known to do. Retaliation had a job at McDonald's, and her co-workers and manager loved when the young lady worked the shift because that night would be fun and go faster with her being around. She came from a decent family, and they were close, especially her and her mother. In April 2020, it was a normal day for the family. They were all at her mother's house. Her friend was there, her brothers, including her older brother, Jacorin. As the night went on, Retaliation told her mother she was leaving to go to her grandmother's house, and that her brother Jacorin would be dropping her off. That night ended with the young lady being left at her grandmother's house as planned in Ferguson, Missouri, outside of St. Louis. The next day, Retaliation's mother will receive a call from her grandmother asking her, has she seen the young lady? She stated, I thought she was at your house. She told her she was, but when she went in the room, she wasn't there in the morning. Her headphones were still there, her license, even the video game she was playing was still on, showing that the young lady had all intentions on coming back. In a panic, the family went to Ferguson police to file a missing persons report, in which they were told they had to wait 48 hours. As another day passed, the city of St. Louis had a Jane Doe whose body was found laying on the sidewalk on Franklin Avenue in the city's north side. The description was a young girl between the ages of 14 and 16 with braids in her hair. Retaliation's family saw it, but thought it couldn't possibly be her because the description just didn't match. Her friend called her mother later on that day, asking did she see the article. She started crying and told Retaliation's mother, I think it's her because of her shoes, and they showed it in the paper. As the family got back in contact with Ferguson police, they asked them to reach out to St. Louis police about the Jane Doe. And unfortunately, a picture was shown, and it was in fact Retaliation. The young lady had been shot multiple times and passed away from her injuries. Her family were devastated and hurt, but also confused because she was left in Ferguson, and that's why they initially went to that police department, because she didn't know anyone on that side of town in St. Louis. The case started out rocky from the beginning. No evidence, nobody knowing why Cariel was over there in the first place. But even still, her family was left to grieve and lay the young lady to rest. It hit them all hard, her mother, father, and brothers, including Jacorin. As months went by, police tried to piece together the events that led to the young lady leaving her grandmother's house. They came to a conclusion. She got a call from a friend to come over and hang out. And while leaving the house, she was robbed and shot in the head. But over 11 months would go by before they had a suspect. The name that came across police desks was at the time 19-year-old Levi Hannon. Levi lived in St. Louis and had a few previous charges, including a pending carjacking case. He would be picked up and taken into custody for the slaying of Cariel, but he never confessed, and the whole time he maintained his innocence. As prosecutors worked to build a strong case, it was word going around in the streets that Levi might be innocent, and another person might have actually been responsible for the situation. But the young lady's family wanted justice, which was understandable. Months would go by with Levi attending court date after court date, along with Cariel's family. His lawyer was asking what evidence did the prosecutors have against the man, as months turned into years. Finally, a motion was put in for dismissal, stating the state was violating Levi's right to a speedy trial, as prosecutors had failed to provide evidence and never even mentioned it could have been leads on another suspect. Eventually, in 2023, charges against Levi for the hit on Cariel was dismissed, and other than an up-and-coming court date for carjacking, he was released as a free man. The young lady's family was devastated. They didn't know prosecutors were late turning in evidence, and as her mother spoke out, she wanted answers. How her daughter's case was just left to go unsolved. No one told them anything, and their questions would go unanswered. Her brother Jacorin took the news hard. The man allegedly responsible for taking his little sister's life was now free and walking the streets. Then in June 2023, a few months after his release, Levi was scheduled one day to go to court for his hearing for his carjacking case, which unknown to him at the time was also about to be dismissed. He was standing right outside of his house in the 5600 block of Baltimore Avenue in St. Louis when the person jumped out the car, letting off shots. Levi tried to run away, but he was hit and fell to the ground before the person ran up and stood over top of him, letting off more shots before jumping back in the car and fleeing the scene. Local police was called to the location to find Levi suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, and unfortunately, he would pass away at the scene. His lawyer, still at the courthouse, was calling the young man to tell him the good news, that his case had been dropped and he was a free man all around the board, just to hear his family say he had been shot on his way to court. As police looked for motives and a suspect, they quickly realized Levi had just had a case dismissed and the people could have wanted revenge. They looked at surveillance footage from the neighborhood that showed the whole incident. A Audi pulling up, waiting patiently until Levi walked outside, then a man creeping up. The car came back as a rental, and the young lady who rented the car was pointed at as Cariel's brother's, Jacorin's girlfriend. Police got a search warrant for the young man's cell phone records. It showed the morning of the hit, Jacorin used the car to drive to his uncle's house, then to Levi's house. They determined he knew the man's address and knew he had court that day, as it seemed like a targeted, premeditated situation. With the information, police picked up Jacorin 2 months after the hit on Levi, and he was charged with first degree and other charges. The case was broadcast as the prosecutor's lack of being up front that got the young man hit, stating they never told Cariel's family Levi's case was dropped due to lack of evidence, and they actually was responsible for that, and they were also looking for another suspect. Some felt they simply didn't care and didn't do their job. As Jacorin's court date came around, it was a lot of mixed feelings as the young man cried out in court, "I'm sorry about the situation, but the man took my sister and left her laying in the street." Even Levi's family felt this pain and stated they understood. Everyone in the situation, even the judge, felt like if Cariel's family was notified about the events and details in the case, maybe things would have went different. With that, charges against Jacorin was dropped all the way down to involuntary manslaughter, and he pleaded out in exchange for a 10-year sentence. Rest in peace to both Cariel and Levi. I send my prayers and condolences to their families. I'm not sure if bro did that to baby girl or not, but I definitely understand how mad and hurt anyone would be to think your loved one is being wrote off as another statistic. Sometimes prosecutors, judges, police all get desensitized, especially in cities where there's a lot of crime going on. Cases get lost, dismissed, innocent people get jammed up, and in some situations, people get street justice. But I'm gonna leave this one right here for y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the situation in the comments. And remember, we gotta succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, crazy story. Rest in peace to both of them young people in the situation that lost their life. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of Hood Tales. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one, fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. Before I get into the story, I want to give a special shout out to Ms. Antoinette Boyd for always supporting the channel and showing love. We definitely appreciate your support. With that being said, let's get right into the video. In every generation, it seems to be a disconnect between the youth and the older adults. Since as far back as I can remember, I have heard people in my city say when I was a teen, y'all young dudes are different. Y'all don't move like we did back in the day. In Baltimore, we call the young kids hoppers. And the older guys will often say, I try to stay away from them hoppers so I won't have to hurt one of them. But of course, that was even though I feel old saying this, the early 2000s, over 20 years ago. Now a brand new generation has evolved. And with social media, the world has agreed on one name. YNs. Most of us already know what that stands for. You have memes about them, videos. It's the young dudes and women with the shiesties on, walking around with their little gun, looking for trouble, waiting for the opportunity to show they like that. Now as an older family man that was once a hopper himself, I never thought the day would come when I would say what was said to me back in the day. But these kids are different. They have access to things we can only imagine back then. And they all taking pride and causing chaos and being so-called YNs. But for us that gotta go out here every day, whether to work or somewhere with our families, I'm sure you might think to yourself, I'm a man first or a woman. I'm not worried about or scared of nobody young enough to be my child. And for most men, it's all about respect. But the vibe is different and the atmosphere has changed a lot. While most of us in our 30s will step in the street, throw our guards up and fight to get our point across, win, lose, or draw, because that's how we was raised. These young people believe nowadays shoot first over any kind of small encounter, crash out and go to prison. And unfortunately, we gotta navigate through the ones with that mindset. And a simple run-in with some hoppers can be fatal. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it right outside of Atlanta to Decatur, Georgia, to discuss the case of a man who lost his life on a job after an argument with some teens over bus fare. Back in October 2024, 47-year-old Leroy Ramos was in a good place in his life. The father of three and family man was about to make a few big moves. He had married his high school sweetheart, and the New York native had made the decision to relocate from home and move to Atlanta for what they thought would be a better quality of life. When they arrived to the city, Leroy would quickly find employment and become a bus driver for MARTA, the Metro Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority. Now, if you know anything about Atlanta, you know the bus can be wild. Just like most major cities in America, the kind of people that filter on and off on the job can be draining. But Leroy had a family to feed and was up for the challenge. His co-workers loved the man. They described him as the type to always be there for people, protect his family, and look out for the ones in his circle, and a stand-up guy. He had no problem adapting to his new city. By January, Leroy had been on the job for a few months. When on a winter night, right after New Year's, on the 3rd of January, he was at work driving like usual. He made it to the Decatur station, and people were boarding the bus and paying their fare, when 3 teens decided they would just get on the bus and not pay. Leroy being from the East Coast, and if anybody listening know anything about New Yorkers, they are very vocal, especially if they feel like you are trying to get over on them. So he addressed the situation, telling Shorty and them, like, yo, it's $2.50 to ride, and if y'all don't pay the fare, you have to get off my bus. Not knowing he was dealing with the exact kind of young dudes we was talking about earlier. As the conversation escalated with them being disrespectful, saying they wasn't paying nothing, it spilled off the bus when one of them threatened to spit on Leroy. Coming out of the old school mob, he quickly responded, if you do that, I will definitely put hands on y'all and put one of y'all to sleep. After going back and forth for a minute, another driver tried to intervene and tell Leroy to get back on the bus, but the hoppers would throw a few more choice words out there, and one of them decided to call Leroy's bluff and run up on the man. Feeling like the teens needed to learn some respect, when one of them touched him, Leroy had did exactly what he said he would do, started punching. You would think with the situation being 3-on-1, it would be a simple fist fight. But in the video, you can hear one of the teens say, give me the gun, twin, before over 8 shots went off, and people fled the scene. Marta police quickly responded to the location to find Leroy suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, including one to the head, and unfortunately, he would pass away at the scene. As the news came out, his wife was devastated to hear her husband had lost his life doing what he was supposed to be doing, trying to provide for his family. His co-workers were in shock, and many stated they felt something like this would eventually happen. Even though somebody recorded the incident, the 3 suspects will remain on the run. As family, friends, and co-workers gathered at a memorial at the exact location Leroy lost his life at, they made sure to let it be known the whole incident was petty and over $2.50. His wife expressed her pain and wanted it to be known that her husband wasn't an aggressive man, but he would stand up for himself and believe right was right and wrong was wrong. Marta would make a statement after being under fire for their policies and drivers feeling unsafe. They stated they have a strict de-escalation policy. Also Marta police, but many drivers shared similar experiences. One man said the exact same thing happened to him. A young man got on, refused to pay, and showed him a gun, saying, I will take your life. As the Marta police were called, they walked the man down the street and let him go, as the driver was left shaken up. So he stated he knew one day something like this would happen. Also a woman who was a driver as well. She had recently put in her resignation letter after the incident. She had also been in a similar encounter, in which she expressed the passenger told her, go ahead, call Marta police. He didn't care. Somebody was going to die that day. In fear for her safety and not feeling protected as a driver, she decided it was better just to quit. A GoFundMe was started for Leroy to raise money for his family and to lay the man to rest. As days went by, police would get information that all 3 of the suspects were teenagers. 2 were quickly picked up and taken into custody and charged as adults, but due to their age, their names and pictures wouldn't be released to the public. The 3rd teen and the alleged trigger man would turn himself in a few weeks later, and also was charged as an adult for the slaying of Leroy. And as of now, this is a new case, and all 3 are innocent until proven otherwise. Rest in peace to Leroy. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. To come from a city like New York and come down south for a better life and lose your life after only 3 months is very sad and unfortunate. Probably like most of us that's a little older, Leroy probably felt, I'm not about to sit here and let these young guys intimidate me. As it seems, that's what they expect for you to do, bow down. But everybody wasn't raised like that. Some people were raised to defend themselves and protect themselves if they ever feel threatened. I remember being at that age, and I thought to myself, if we did decide to do something like that, just jump the bus and skip the fare, if we would have got our card pulled, we would have just fought. In my opinion, it wasn't worth guns coming out. It's like now, they are tough and scary at the same time, but it's the so-called YN culture. They are on an ego trip and have a complex and feel like you can't stand up to them or pull them up on nothing. But I want to end this one with a few questions. What do y'all think started the disconnection between generations? Back in the day, it was no ma'am, no sir, and a little respect left. Like, yeah, ain't my fault, or I'm sorry, auntie, when we spoke to our elders. But now, it's gone out the window, and it doesn't seem to be coming back. Do y'all feel like the so-called YN culture that's being promoted is hurting the community, making good kids want to be crash outs because they see what they see on the internet? And have you yourself ever ran into a situation like this? If so, did you put your pride to the side and walk away, or choose to engage? And how did it play out? Let me know in the comments. And remember, we gotta succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, crazy story. Rest in peace, that man. Over $2.50. Only been down here a few months. I definitely send my prayers to his family. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of Hood Tales. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another episode of Hood Tales. In this video, let's take it to Wichita, Kansas to discuss the 2020 slaying of Joe Jojo Wheeler III after an argument with a coworker at a gentleman's club. But before we get into this video, I'd like to say a big thank you to our supporters. We appreciate you so much. If you'd like to support the channel monetarily, you can find the information on the screen. And to support us for absolutely no cost to you, please hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and join the Tony 2 times family. Tap that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Also, this video is sponsored by yours truly, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and my new YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out and support me. I'll leave the link to it in the description box below. And be sure to share this video with everyone you know. Stay tuned until the end to hear all the details. All right, let's get into it. Workplace drama is a common reality for most employers in different industries. For whatever reasons, some employees don't get along well with each other. They are always at odds, turning an already stressful workplace into a dangerously toxic environment that can even turn fatal. Joe Jojo Wheeler III was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. He played basketball from middle school to high school. He was described as having a happy spirit, caring, and genuine. Joe was well known in his hometown, and he never knew a stranger. He later became a father to 2 sons, and fatherhood was one of Joe's greatest accomplishments. Joe seemed to be the type of guy who was fun-loving, enjoyed having a good time, and spending time with his family and friends. He worked at an adult entertainment club called Baby Dolls in North Wichita, where he was the son of the owner. Baby Dolls was also known as a bikini bar. Joe worked at Baby Dolls during the day, and for the most part, Joe got along with the people he worked with. But one day, Joe got into it with a woman named Autumn Metcalf, a dancer at the club. On Monday, August 24th, 2020, Joe worked the day shift at the club and was hanging out after his shift. Multiple employees heard Joe get into an argument with Autumn. One person said the argument went on for more than 2 hours. The night manager of the club heard Autumn say, "Just wait, I'm gonna have somebody come up here. My brother has a strap." According to reports, Autumn made multiple calls, at one point telling the person she was on the phone with she wanted Joe gone. A club patron heard Autumn say, "I'll have him gone or I'll have him shot." Later that night, 2 people arrived and met Autumn at the club. In between that time, Joe and the night manager were with each other. At some point, Joe went to his car, a 2017 Jaguar XC that was parked in the back of the club. Less than 2 minutes after the night manager saw Joe, she discovered him shot inside his car. At 9:06 p.m., Joe's mother called 911 to report a shooting at Baby Dolls. The caller said the suspect was Autumn. Police arrived at the 4900 block of North Arkansas, where they found 33-year-old Joe Wheeler slumped over, wounded inside his Jaguar with the door open. He was pronounced gone at the scene from 2 shots to his head. Officers learned of the disturbance inside the club that more than likely spilled into the parking lot. Police spoke with Autumn at the scene, but she was allowed to leave. Investigators interviewed witnesses at the scene. They overheard Autumn making multiple threats, saying that she would have her brother take care of Joe. An employee said Autumn called 4 to 5 people. At one point, witnesses said Autumn described Joe to the other person on the phone. Another witness heard Autumn tell someone on the phone, "Yeah, he's still here. Come back up." Right after the incident, another witness heard Autumn saying, "Bitch thought he was going to get away with it, talking to me like that." Despite all the witness testimony and evidence pointing at Autumn as the suspect, it took over 2 years for her to be charged. In September 2022, the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office featured Autumn Metcalf as its felon of the day. Later that month, 31-year-old Autumn was arrested and booked for first-degree hit as well as failure to appear and multiple counts of failure to comply. Her bonds totaled $267,000. In August 2024, 4 years after Joe's slaying, Autumn went to trial. In addition to her other charges, she also faced charges of solicitation to commit a hit. The trial started on a Monday and lasted until Friday morning. Jurors deliberated for 3 hours before finding Autumn Metcalf guilty of solicitation of first-degree hit and first-degree hit in connection to the slaying of Joe Wheeler III. Autumn was supposed to be sentenced in October 2024. However, she is currently still being held at the Sedgwick County Jail, so I'm guessing she's still awaiting sentencing. 2 people who met Autumn at the club and were seen with her on surveillance were contacted during the investigation and declined to provide a statement. It appears Autumn was the only person charged and convicted in this incident thus far. May Jojo Glennis Wheeler III continue to rest in peace. My belated condolences to his family. I send them my well wishes. It's not clear what Joe and Autumn were arguing about, but it seemed like Autumn felt disrespected by the way Joe was talking to her. She couldn't let it go and made the decision to end his life. To be arguing for more than 2 hours in your place of work is crazy, and it sounds exhausting. Did Autumn and Joe have prior run-ins? We can only speculate what the disagreement was about and why it escalated. Either way, no disagreement at work should get to the point of a life being taken. We have to do our best to not let our emotions take over to the point where we lose control. Remember, we have to succeed, not to fail, so we don't become another hood tale. Fam, what are your thoughts on this situation? Have any of you worked in this industry and had issues with a coworker? If so, how did you handle it? Even if you haven't worked in that industry but had issues with someone you work with, How did you manage to get through it? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times. Until next time.
What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one, fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. When most relationships start out, it's all love and Hallmark cards. Things are just so fresh at that stage. You and your significant other are glued by the hip. As time goes on, slowly but surely, that sweet version of each other falls back and the real person comes out. You might still be very much in love, but you start to peep flaws in the person you chose to be with. It could be good flaws, like they are too clingy, don't want to do anything without you, or bad flaws, like being jealous and overly possessive. The messed up thing about that though, we usually don't find out certain things about our partner until we are already in way too deep. But if you listen and watch, I'm sure you can see red flags and signs. When you lay down and choose to be intimate with some individuals, in their mind, we are locked in forever. You are mine. And if babies come out the relationship, now you might really find out who you are dealing with. The possessiveness turns to control and obsession. And sometimes, now that the mask has come off and you see who you are really with, some people choose to make a decision and say, I think we are better off separate or just co-parenting. That sounds simple enough. The relationship is done and it's all about the kids now. But we all know 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen like that, and it's not that easy. Some people just don't want to see you happy and moving on without them. It's not an option. They feel like it's no letting go. They want full control of your life. And if not, some choose to just take it. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to Newark, New Jersey to discuss the case of a man who lost it and took out his ex-girlfriend, baby mother, and her boyfriend in a cold and evil way. Back in 2016, 27-year-old Jeffrey Holland was navigating life in Jersey. He was living with his father and brother at the time, but that wasn't always the case. Jeffrey started out wanting to be a family man. He had previously came out of a serious relationship with his ex and the mother of his 2 kids, 23-year-old Ashley Jones. The couple had lived together, shared the 1-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son, but some say Jeffrey got controlling and even started putting hands on Ashley. So she planned her escape with the kids. She eventually got approved for housing, and her and the kids left Jeffrey for a fresh start. Leaving the young man, contacting mutual friends through social media and finding out where Ashley's new place was at. But his investigation soon turned to frustration as he realized she didn't just move out, but moved on with a 28-year-old man named Jarrell Marshall, who also had a 3-year-old daughter. Jeffrey would contact her, making threats, even one day broke into the house while she was alone and put hands on Ashley bad, to the point she was terrified and filed a restraining order on her baby father. That didn't stop Jeffrey though from contacting her, saying, I'm gonna take your life. He told her, I could have already did it 3 times. You think you safe? You lucky the last time I forgot my gun. Next time I will kick in the door and finish you. He even contacted her family and friends, sending them intimate videos of the two, calling her dirty and nasty, and saying the kids will be better off without her in their life. He stated Jarrell was going to catch it too, saying she's scared of me and watch my work. I'm senseless. But the new couple, Ashley and Jarrell, ignored all the threats. And for a minute, it almost looked like Jeffrey was moving on. When he started dating a young woman 21-year-old Tanika Rouse. The young mother had a 5-month-old son and also her own apartment. Jeffrey would often go by, spend the night, and it seemed he was moving on. On January 29th, 2016, Jeffrey woke up, texted his new girlfriend, and asked could he come by later. Around about 12:30 a.m., now the next day, a neighbor in Tanika's building noticed water coming out her apartment and the door wide open. They walked in, slowly walking around, and found the woman laying in the bathtub. She was unconscious. They quickly called police. When police arrived to the scene, the young mother was unfortunately already gone, and her 5-month-old was found in the closet laying under piles of clothes, fortunately unharmed. The cause of Tanika's passing was asphyxiation, and it seemed somebody had cleaned up the apartment in their tracks. The building had heavy security cameras everywhere, so detectives used these to find a lead. It showed the man with a North Face jacket on, cargo pants, long dreads, and a ski mask. He entered the building earlier that evening on the 29th. He then left hours later carrying a suitcase, then returned after police determined she was already gone, and stayed for 7 more hours before leaving again. While their investigation was going on January 31st, police received another call from Ashley's neighbor. They said they heard her screaming, and police responded to the apartment to find Ashley suffering from 2 gunshot wounds to the head, holding a baby who was unharmed. Jarrell laying beside her also shot multiple times, and unfortunately, both were pronounced gone on the scene. His daughter was also there, and Jeffrey's and Ashley's kids as well. All the kids were safe. The neighbor told police they heard screaming, shots go off, and the child calling out, "Mommy, mommy." Police noticed the door was kicked off the hinges, and it seemed the couple were ambushed while in bed. As Ashley's family got the news, they quickly told police to go check into Jeffrey, stated they knew for sure it was him. Police got surveillance video from Ashley's building as well, and noticed something interesting. At first, they viewed Tanika's, Ashley's, and Jarrell's passing as separate unrelated incidents until they saw the person in both security videos had on the exact same clothing. They went to pick up Jeffrey for questioning. On February 1st, around 4 a.m., he waived his right to remain silent and talk to detectives. Police laid the bait. Already knowing the answers, they asked him about the video footage from Tanika's house and stated he fit the description of a suspect. They even found matching clothes in his father's house, and her phone's last location was by his address in East Orange, New Jersey. What Jeffrey admitted to next was shocking. Saying no way out, he admitted, "Yeah, that's me on video, but that's not my girl no more. We broke up. We just kept remaining intimate." He claimed he also was smashing her roommate and cousin. He stated Tanika was kinky, into hardcore stuff, so he went over to get it in. Asked her did she want him to find something to choke her with. He claimed she stated yes, but in the act, he soon realized something wasn't right and she wasn't moving. In a panic, he put her in the bathtub, ran some water, put the baby in the closet, and covered him up. He didn't call police, but left the door open so that it could flood the building and the neighbors find the baby. He stated he took all the intimate toys they used, put them in a suitcase, wiped down the house so his fingerprints wouldn't be left, but came back later to see if she or the baby had been found. This time, he stayed for 7 more hours, cleaning, and still left without calling police. Police sat and listened and acted like they bought his story, agreeing like, yeah, okay, it was an accident. And now his phone messages came back as they had searched it. They asked about Ashley. He denied doing anything to his baby mother, but ironically, police found the message from him to her months prior, saying next time I'ma kick in the door while you all sleep and shoot both of y'all. In the exact same fashion the couple were found in. Knowing it was over for him, while waiting in the interrogation room, Jeffrey sent his father an email saying, "I love you, but it's over. I'm going to jail." He was taken into custody, charged with 3 counts of murder, breaking and entering, 4 counts of endangerment, handgun violations, and multiple other charges. As he went in front of a judge who gave him a $2.5 million bond, of course, he would have to sit until his trial date. Once trial started, multiple people testified. Tanika's family, Ashley's family, stating Jeffrey was a possessive, obsessed, control freak. And when he couldn't control the woman he laid down with, or if they wanted to move on, he would react in violence. With the evidence, it was hard for his lawyer to argue or do anything. And the fact he left kids at multiple crime scenes, including 2 of his own, and shot while his baby mother held one of them, made it even worse. In the end, Jeffrey was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to 190 years in prison, 60 years for each person, and is not eligible for parole until 150 years, meaning he will probably never make it out of prison. Rest in peace to Tanika, Ashley, and Jarrell. I send my prayers and condolences to their kids and families. Jeffrey was a cold dude. To take your ex-girlfriend's life because she peeped you was throwed off and call it quits, and I guess after that, he said I might as well go through with the threats I made on my BM, and did that in front of your kids. Left them calling out for their mother. Bro really was heartless. I never wish jail on nobody, but in this case, doing something like this, bro is right where he need to be at. I couldn't fathom doing something like this around my kids and just leaving them there. You know what kind of trauma he probably caused to them, all because their mother moved on. Some people can't stand to feel rejected. No matter what they did, they get left in the first place. They flip the situation to be in their favor and make it seem like you did them wrong. Now, bro left his kids without their parents, Jarrell's daughter without her father, and Tanika's son without their mother, all because his feelings was hurt. But I'm gonna leave this one open. Have you yourself ever dealt with a partner like this that just couldn't let go, made threats, and just didn't want to see you happy? Or even worse, do you have kids by somebody like this? If so, how do you deal with it? Or how did it play out? Let me know in the comments. And remember, we gotta succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, this was a crazy story. Yo was throwed all the way off. I don't know what was up with Shorty. But yeah, rest in peace, them 3 people. I definitely send my prayers and condolences to their family. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. That's another episode of Hood Tales. This your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out.